Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me yet again in another episode of Kombat Kanvas, in which we will go over the main event of UFC International Fight Week 317. Will Ilia Topuria become only the second fighter in the UFC history to hold both the featherweight and lightweight title? Or will Charles Oliveira remind the young phenom that the legends of the sport are not ready to pass the torch just yet? Join me as I break down the main event of UFC 317, an electric showdown during International Fight Week 2025. UFC 317 takes place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada on June 28, 2025 as part of International Fight Week, one of the biggest traditions in the UFC calendar. The T-Mobile Arena holds over 20,000 fans and also hosts the UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony, adding even more prestige to the week. This event features major implications for both the lightweight and flyweight divisions. In the lightweight division, Topuria vs Oliveira could define the next title challenger or even be an unofficial title eliminator depending on the champ's availability. In the flyweight division, Pantoja vs Kai Kara-France could reshape the title picture immediately. Despite the stakes, fighters like Islam Makhachev have criticized the lack of UFC promotion, giving this card a sleeping giant vibe. Massively important, but also flying under the radar. Alright, on the screen you're seeing right now the stats for both fighters. You know that I don't love going through stats and numbers all that much because I believe there's just so much the numbers can tell you, but at the end of the day is what you have seen, is what you have observed, what really matters in terms of how you feel about a fight that is upcoming. And don't get me wrong guys, I understand that initially we wanted Ilia Topuria undefeated against Islam Makhachev, that even though he's not undefeated, he pretty much has the aura of an undefeated fighter. He carries himself as one, and he already tied Anderson Silva for the longest winning streak in general, right? So he's doing very well himself, and we wanted to see that fight, but honestly, this is the next best thing that the UFC could have done for us, really. Now, when it comes to this main event, you know, I want to discuss the strengths of Ilia Topuria as well as his weaknesses, if any, and also the strengths of Charles Oliveira and his weaknesses, yeah, if any. So guys, I want to recap, for example, the fact that when it comes to Ilia Topuria, he is really a powerful striker. We all know that. We all know that he has a good chin and he can recover from taking a shot. And we also know that he has a very well-rounded game. So it's not like there is a glaring hole in his game that we have noticed. Of course, he is undefeated, and in this case, Charles will have the task to find the holes or to expose them even more. Right? In just a moment I will discuss in what ways I think Charles can expose Ilia's game and get a win in this case. But firstly, I want to discuss about Ilia's strengths, such as, of course, his ability to fight in the pocket, to exchange in the boxing distance, and usually come out victorious, or should I say always come out victorious. Now, of course, to land one, you gotta put yourself, you will have to put yourself in a situation or position where others can land on you as well. That's why, you know, every fight that Ilia fights is interesting, as well as Oliveira, because you know they're not gonna be afraid or playing tactical. They're gonna get hit right at some point, even in the fights that they win. So that's what makes them exciting, but that's also what gives the other fighter a chance. So if I were to discuss, I already mentioned a few of Ilia's strengths, but if I have to mention something weak on his game, would be the fact that he's never lost, right? And the mere fact that you've never lost really takes away from your capability of being careful, of preventing stuff, right? Now, of course, there's moments where Ilia has had to struggle, such as the moments when there have been high kicks landed on him, or even, especially high kicks is what we have seen people landing on him, like cleanly out of the UFC and also inside the UFC at lightweight as well. In his only lightweight fight, he got like starched by Jai Herbert by that high kick. So we know it's there, and Ilia has taken some lessons even in victories, but I believe the fact that he's undefeated might make him underestimate a fighter in Charles Oliveira who has seen it all, who has seen way more than Ilia has. I understand Ilia right now has the momentum, the wins and everything else, but I believe if I were to point at any weakness, could be that. And at a physical level, I do believe that his height can be a weakness if exploded properly. Now again, in just a moment I'll discuss how I think Charles can actually explode and expose those weaknesses in Ilia being a shorter fighter. But right off the bat, I do want to mention that area of his game, or his physique, as a weakness now that he's moving up in a weight class. The weight, really, I don't think is going to be that much of a problem. The strength, I don't think is going to be that much of a problem. But when it comes to the height, that's a physical attribute that you just cannot make up for with just athleticism and whatnot. There's going to be some stuff that you're going to eat when you are down there, you know, and you're fighting against like a taller guy. So if anything, I would have to mention that, of course, if we were to go over the Ilia's wins, he has had very masterful performances. The only time that we've seen him going 5 rounds was the time he fought against Josh Emmett, and he went the distance. He showed good cardio. Even at the end of the fight, well, in the 5th round, he even went for takedowns and got them. Controlled Emmett on the ground, who is actually a good wrestler himself. So, you know, Ilia has a deep tool bag to coast to a win or even recover after getting hurt. So like I said, of course there's not much to pick from when it comes to weaknesses that Ilia could have, but definitely those weaknesses are there to be exploded, and I'll mention in just a moment how else it can be done. But firstly, let's go with Charles. I want to talk about his strengths coming into this fight. Of course, we know he has lethal striking. Overall, he has a finisher mentality, and needless to say, for the guy with the most finishes in the UFC, he is a finisher. He will finish you on the ground, he will finish you on the feet, but usually, or more often than not, he will connect both of them. Hurt you on the feet, submit you on the ground. He will rarely go straight for takedowns. He has done it in the past. He did it against Tony Ferguson. He did it against Chandler in the second fight. So we know he has that in his game, but make no mistake, Charles is dangerous. I know he can be landed on, and that's one of the weaknesses that I'll have to mention right off the bat. But I'm not even sure. You know what? No, never mind. I'm not gonna mention that as a weakness, because that's what makes his style what it is. And by doing that, he's also won fights. So you cannot say that's a liability. His whole game cannot be a liability. If he goes in the back foot, if he's just retreating, circling the cage, that's not gonna be a Charles Oliveira fight. So you know he's gonna go forward with the Muay Thai stance, hands high, lifting the leg, push kicks, kicks up the middle, and everything else that comes with it. So of course, when it comes to Charles, I do believe he has a very complete game as well. Of course, we know his wrestling hasn't never been his strength. When it comes to getting the fights to the ground, he will more often than not do it by hurting his opponent, or even standing. He will go and take the guy's back right away. He won't bother to like take you down and go through all that sweat and pain. It's like, nah, I'm just gonna choke you out here standing, right? Don't even bother, bro. You don't need to go to the ground. Let me finish you right here, right now, brother. So he goes for that. Let's go for that. So when it comes to Charles Oliveira, I see him winning. Well, let me give the predictions, okay? But before the predictions, though, let's talk about the only, or one of the biggest weakness that I see for Charles. He's been in many wars. I'm not so worried about the fact that Ilia can land on him, because that is a risk that is possible in every fight. And just because, for example, Poirier doesn't have the KO capability that Ilia has, or has demonstrated at featherweight, didn't mean that Charles should have fought any differently against Poirier. I think Charles will have to go through fire, but if it comes to ways that Topuria can win this, of course, is by getting a huge knockout, by KOing Charles with a punch. You won't see an Ilia KO with the feet. You know, that's not really a thing you see. So of course, he's gonna land heavy hands on Charles. Even there's a risk that he could submit Charles on the ground after hurting him, because there's a chance Charles goes to his back, and Ilia is super confident. He's sure that he already has the fight in his pocket, and just decides to go and chase Charles to the ground, which again could be a mistake, but we've seen Charles getting finished on the ground previously by elite grapplers like Islam, so there's that. Now, when it comes to ways for Charles to win, that's for me when it gets interesting, especially when Charles is really not the favorite by any means. Everybody in the odds believe that Ilia has 4 times more chances to win this fight than Charles does. Even when Charles is more proven, even when Charles has already been champion, you know, the betting odds and the faith of the betting odds are fully on Ilia's potential and momentum. Now, when it comes to how Charles wins this fight, for me there's a couple different very specific scenarios that can work, but out of all of them, the main one I see happening is Charles and Ilia are exchanging on the feet, and Charles lands something significant that hurts Ilia, to the point that it makes Ilia panic wrestle, or shoot out of instinct, play with his high fight IQ, mix up the martial arts, however you want to call it, he's gonna go and shoot. And I believe that's the moment Charles takes advantage of that in 2 different ways. He either lets himself get taken down, scramble, and gets a dominant position through which he can work ground and pound or a submission attempt, or he directly jumps for a submission right then and there when Ilia goes for the takedown. For me, option number 2 is less smart. Option number 1 sounds like the more patient and smart approach, as he could build a stronger position, and even if he doesn't get the finish, he wins the round, the momentum is on his side, and then he goes to the next round telling Ilia, or like giving him this indirect message of, don't shoot buddy, don't shoot or I'm gonna get you, right? That would send a big message, and that would limit the fight to be played on the feet where Ilia most likely wants it. Now, I believe that's the most likely scenario. I think people are kind of discarding the fact that Charles can hurt Ilia, and that's how some opportunities can come for Charles. I don't think Charles is gonna win in a clean fight where he's the one getting hurt and Ilia isn't. I don't think that's gonna happen. For him to win this fight, for Ilia to win this fight, he better fucking make sure that he gets rid of Charles when he knocks him down or hits him clean. He better make sure that's the case, because if that's not the case, there's always the chance that Charles is gonna survive and win the fight, or somehow get you in danger. He's always going for the finish, so as long as you guys are in there, Charles always has a chance. And again, very hard to see a weakness in Ilia's game, but guys, I'm so excited about International Fight Week. I know overall the card, people will always find something to complain about. There were some pullouts and whatnot, but there was a time where I didn't know any fighter in the UFC, and mainly the ones I knew was the ones in the main card or the main event. And that was good enough for me to stick around for the event, watch the rest of the fights, and be hyped as fuck because the main event was gonna be fire. These days, we feel like every single card on the pay-per-view has to be a fucking title eliminator or number 1 contender fight or some sort of interim championship, or bro, it doesn't always have to be popular names. Trust the matchmaking. There's very good matchmaking in this fight card, and I'm very excited about it. I'm just gonna go with an open mind to watch everything that this card has to bring. There's so much more to comment on, but I wanted to make a shorter video just commenting on the main event of the evening so I can get this video out faster to you guys. Again, so far, thank you so much for the support, for leaving a comment, for leaving a like, or just for watching through. Even those watching minutes are super valuable for me. And of course, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, leave a like, share it with your friends, help me get into the MMA algorithm, in which one day I will live and be recommended, but for now we're only gonna get there. I'm only gonna get there with your support, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments who you think is gonna win this amazing main event, and we'll talk after this great international fight card is done, guys. I wish you nothing but the best and see you at the fights.